As with any enduring controversy, the matter is not easily resolved. For one thing, there is evidence to support both points of view. It is not uncommon to find learners who, for whatever reason, find themselves in a new country or a new region of their own country, who need to learn a new language, and who do so without the benefit of formal instruction. When one person says, "I had a bad day," the other person has to top it, "You think you had a tough day? I had to do 3 TPS reports." The same thing happens at work and social settings. Your child didn't sleep through the night until 6 months? Mine was a full year old before she went over 6 hours. Within a few years, though, enthusiasm for them had fizzled out. Since then, education technology has repeated the cycle of hype and flop, even as computers have reshaped almost every other part of life. One reason is the conservatism of teachers and their unions. But another is that the brain-stretching potential has remained unproven. A report on inequality in the UK said last week that girls had better educational results than boys at 16, went to university in greater numbers, and achieved better degrees once they got there. More women now have higher education qualifications than men in every age group up to age 44, the report said. The marshmallow test showed that the longer a child can resist the treat has been correlated with higher general competency later in life, but now a study shows that the ability to resist temptation isn't strictly innate, it's also highly influenced by environment and experience, which can factor into a child's ability to delay gratification. Fewer sales, which means that inventories pile up and there is more supply than demand, lead to prices going down, which normally cause demand to pick up, and people to tend to postpone purchases, and further gluts in the market, which eventually lead manufacturers to slow production, and cause domestic consumption to fall further since there is less money to buy goods. A global study by researchers has for the first time identified and analyzed rich fertile soils found in Liberia and Ghana. They discovered that the ancient West African method of adding charcoal and kitchen waste to highly weathered, nutrient-poor tropical soils can transform the land into enduringly fertile. The news marketplace of ideas dominated by television is so different from the one that emerged in the world dominated by the printing press, because the quality of vividness experienced by television viewers is different from that by readers, and the simulation of reality accomplished in the television medium is much more compelling and vivid compared with the representation of reality conveyed by printed words. Until the early 1960s, newspapers published separate job listing for men and women, and the wage gap, whose closing has been at a rate of about half a penny a year since 1963, when the Equal Pay Act was signed, is a statistical indicator often used as an index of the status of women's earnings relative to men's. The chess experts had no special visualization skills on the identification of the geometric objects. While the subjects were shown the chess positions, the experts identified them faster, and parts of the left hemispheres of the experts' brains react the same as those of the novices when they performed the chess tasks. Nutrition science is a very young science, and someday the field may produce definitive answers to the nutritional questions that concern us, but it knows a lot less about nutrition than you would expect because it only got started less than 200 years ago and is today approximately where surgery was in the year 1650. It was an intriguing enough award. But what is really astonishing is that the clock was designed more than 250 years ago by a man who was derided at the time for an incoherence and absurdity that was little short of the symptoms of insanity, and whose plans for the clock lay ignored for 2 centuries. The brain doesn't see the world simply as though the scene was projected onto a cinema screen because the image that we see with our eyes is broken down into separate color components and other components. Each of these component parts is sent to a separate area of the brain for processing. The reasons why you must let the land rest if you hope to continue farming there in the long run, which is letting the field go fallow, are that this allows the land to replenish many of its nutrients, the root networks of various grasses or ground covers have a chance to expand and grow, and there are many beneficial flora and microfauna. With early silent movies often accompanied by live piano or organ music, audiences captivated by the experience of watching moving pictures on the silver screen, and it wasn't until 1923 that a synchronized soundtrack was photographically recorded and printed onto the side of the strip of motion picture film and made it onto a commercially distributed movie, and the first movie theaters were called Nickelodeons. Delivering packages with drones will scale back CO2 emissions if the drones haven't got to fly terribly way to their destinations, while the carbon edges erode because the weight of a package increase, but trucks become a lot of climate-friendly various once a delivery route has several stops. According to new research, if you can switch out your intake of defined sugar and use pure raw honey instead, the health benefits can be enormous, and unlike processed honey, raw honey is a pure, unfiltered, and unpasteurized sweetener made by bees, and does not get robbed of its incredible nutritional value and health power. While English is widely spoken in the world, it is strange that so many people are convinced of the decline in the quality of English, and the reason may be that the members of the anti-slovenliness brigade are subconsciously reacting to the fast-moving world and consequently resenting change in any area of life, because every generation inevitably believes that things in the following generation have deteriorated. Honey, with the same functions as drugs used by athletes for high athletic performance and less negative impact, has a milder effect on blood sugar than other popular forms of carbohydrate gel, and speeds muscle recovery after a workout. Teachers often go through this process at the beginning of a new topic. They also use introductory strategies at the beginning of lessons, which are continuations from previous lessons. In terms of the practicalities of teaching, this is a process of making children think about the topic or remember what has been covered already.